Incompetent bottom feeders should sleep on the ground. It hurts. Really hurts. It seems I hit my body hard when I fell down the stairs. Lately, I've been so busy that I haven't been able to eat properly. My body, having lost weight due to this, didn't provide any cushioning. It's as if my bones hit something. The intense pain made me involuntarily furrow my brow. Wow, you fell down pretty hard. Suddenly, I was confused about what had happened. While enduring the pain, I thought it over. It was him. He pushed me down the stairs. The person responsible for pushing me was smirking at me, laughing after pushing someone down the stairs. That's insane. It's your fault, bottom feeder. The moment I saw that expression, my anger reached its peak. I will never forgive this man. My name is James Smith, a 30-something entrepreneur. I took over my father's company just last year as a novice. Originally, my elder brother was supposed to take over, but he fell. Therefore, as a second son, I became the president. I'm a man whose only virtue is being earnest, with my previous job being a mundane one that allowed for diligent work. My superiors always told me I had nothing but earnestness, and I too thought I wasn't cut out to be a president. However, my parents who raised me and my brother who cared for me asked me to take the role. Eventually, I accepted the position of president. At first, I thought it would be until my brother's illness healed. But now, working busy days, I've grown fond of the company. I visit the field and am in the midst of learning various things. I never thought you yourself would come. Please, take a look around. I was in a different industry originally, so I lack specialized knowledge. I've studied somewhat, but textbooks and the field are different. Thank you very much for welcoming me so kindly. Today, I'm visiting a factory of a business partner. We've been trading with this company for years and plan to sign a major contract soon. I wanted to see the site before that, so I asked the sales representative who happened to be at our place. They gladly accepted my selfish request to see the site. Today, I'm being guided by Michael. He's a man of my age. He's also earnest, and we get excited talking about work. Despite our different positions, we share the enthusiasm to improve our companies. Michael explains everything carefully, and I was glad I came when. Suddenly, there was a loud voice. Hey, incompetent, don't slack off. That's why you're incompetent. I was startled by the loud and cold voice. Incompetent. What did this person just say? From a distance, the person who shouted showed himself. Everyone in the factory is required to wear work clothes, but this person was dressed casually. And I could see his watch shining. In this factory, dealing with precision machinery, wearing a watch is supposed to be prohibited. There's a risk of damaging the products. Of course, I'm also wearing work clothes and not carrying anything like watches or mechanical pencils. If you have time to hang out with bottom feeders, get back to work, or if you're so free, go buy some coffee, and of course, you're paying for it. The man spoke languidly, dripping with sarcasm. After saying what he wanted, he strutted off somewhere. What an insolent attitude. Michael, who was guiding me, turned pale. He started apologizing to me profusely. I'm truly sorry. No, Michael, it's not your fault. That was Brian, the division head, right? Yes, he's the head of the General Affairs Department. I've heard about it. This company is family-run, and the family members wield significant power. I've heard that some of them take advantage of their positions with arrogant attitudes. Brian is especially notorious for his haughty demeanor. Michael kept apologizing to me. It must be tough dealing with Brian. I'll make sure Brian apologizes. No, it's okay. I have another appointment soon anyway. and you've got your hands full." When I said that, Michael seemed a bit relieved. But the next moment, he straightened up again, and his expression became serious. "I'm really sorry. Today was the first time I met Michael, but he's well regarded by our employees. Talking to him, I felt he was a trustworthy person." After a bit of conversation, we left the production area of the factory. Still, it seems this company has its issues. There are earnest and dedicated employees like Michael. On the other hand, people who can't even follow basic manners or rules are in managerial positions. No company is perfect, but it's something that should be addressed. And Brian, what a rude person. His name is Brian. In his mid-40s, he's the head of the General Affairs Department, a relative of President Johnson, which explains his condescending attitude. He seems to be quite well known. Before visiting the company, I heard various things from our employees. Some of them have witnessed Brian's terrible attitude. Especially targeted is Michael. Originally from the General Affairs Department, he moved to sales last year. It seems he had a rough time in the General Affairs Department. Just from a little chat with our employees, I got this much information. I wonder if he's going through even harder times. Thinking about Michael makes my heart ache. In my previous job, I was harassed by a boss like Brian. That's why I can't help but empathize. People like him are just unreasonable. They shove impossible tasks onto us and then yell if we can't do them. I was blamed to the point of nearly losing my dignity. Remembering the past, I tremble with anger. Now that I'm an entrepreneur, I strongly wish not to become an unreasonable person. Hey, incompetent, where the hell is my coffee? Do I have to say it multiple times for you to understand? That's why you're incompetent. Brian, please stop. Just when I thought he had disappeared, that man came back. He's kicking the trash can while yelling loudly. In what world does a department head kick a factory's trash can? It's appalling. Michael apologized to me once and then ran towards Brian. They seem to be talking, but Brian seems to have gotten even angrier. Again, he kicks the trash can and yells out loud. Then, he took Michael towards the stairs. Hey, you trying to defy me? Is Michael okay? Knowing Brian, he might do something even worse. He probably doesn't realize I'm the president of a client company. If I tell him, maybe that will calm things down for now. Thinking this, I headed towards the stairs. As I got closer to the stairs, I could see the two of them. As expected, Michael was getting a mouthful from Brian. I approached and called out to them. I apologize for the late introduction, That was the moment. Brian grabbed my shoulder forcefully and pushed me hard. We were at the top of the stairs. I lost my balance and fell down. There was a loud thump. For a moment, I didn't understand what had happened. It hurts. My whole body is in pain. This is bad. Wow, you fell down pretty hard. Brian was smirking, clapping his hands and laughing. Laughing after pushing someone down the stairs. That's insane. It's your fault, bottom feeder. Bottom feeder. So, he mistook me for an employee of his own company. But still, that's terrible. Just because I'm an employee of his company, he thinks he can do anything. Anger wells up inside me. Not just towards this man. It's anger towards unreasonable people. I've been working diligently and earnestly. My superiors dismissed me, saying a dull and boring person like me would always be at the bottom. I've been hit in the head with crumpled trash more than once or twice. I've never been able to tell anyone. I wanted to keep this miserable self hidden. I thought it was okay as long as I endured the terrible treatment from my superiors. Such past experiences flash back. Incompetent bottom feeders should sleep on the ground. He smirks, truly looking like he's enjoying himself. The moment I saw that expression, my anger reached its peak. I will never forgive this man. I declare loudly to Brian, who is smirking at me. Tell President Johnson that the $20 million contract is off. Hey, you are joking, right? Little bottom feeder. Such a lie will be exposed in no time. You don't belong in this factory. You're too weak. Get out of here. Brian was laughing as if he was about to dance, thoroughly enjoying himself. Michael, with a pale face, informed him. What are you talking about, Brian? This is President Smith from our client company. Apologize to him right now. Huh? Brian looked at us with a dumbfounded expression. Michael, you can't be serious. Why would Mr. Smith from our client company be here? We were about to have a $20 million deal. It's a significant deal, so I thought I'd inspect the site myself. But, Brian, with someone like you around, the deal is off. I glared at him intensely. Brian's face literally started turning pale. Where did his earlier attitude go? Looking at his fingertips, they were trembling. No, come on, that's a joke. Today, we were expecting a job hopper in his 20s, someone who didn't do well as a fresh graduate. I'm in my 30s, though. Hey, I'm approaching my late 30s, but I've been told I look like a college student. I'm short and have a youthful face. Honestly, it's been a significant complex for me. That's why I want to succeed as an entrepreneur and become a big man. Brian, this cannot be overlooked. What you did is a serious crime. There's no way I can forgive this. No, wait, that's a lie. I don't believe it. A president with that kind of face. Lies, all lies. Brian, how can you say such a thing? Still talking like that? I handed my business card to Michael again and urged him to show it to Brian. Naturally, my business card states that I am the president. Brian reluctantly looked at the card. But the president here is supposed to be an old man. Brian, how disrespectful can you be? Brian's hands, holding the business card, were trembling slightly. He quickly took out his cell phone and started looking up something. He must be searching for information about our company. Of course, bringing cell phones into the factory is prohibited. Wow, it's true. The president changed last year. No, it's not my fault. With that, Brian ran away. Not even a single apology. What a pathetic man. Michael was concerned about me and quickly called for help. Despite the intense pain all over my body, my feelings of anger were stronger. I will never forgive that man. After Brian ran away, I immediately went to the hospital. I was worried because I had hit my body hard, but thankfully, no bones were broken. However, it wasn't without consequence. I got a medical certificate and called my lawyer, John, from the hospital parking lot. I explained the situation and asked for his support in taking legal action. When I returned to the company, President Johnson was there to apologize. He was talking at the company's entrance with the receptionist. Upon seeing me, Mr. Johnson immediately began to apologize. He also urged Michael to apologize. This action also angers me. Please stop this here. Can't you at least consider the place? When I said that coldly, Mr. Johnson apologized even more deeply. Did he not hear what I just said? I sighed. For this company, $20 million is a very significant deal. We hadn't reached a formal agreement yet, but it was almost settled. But calling someone incompetent, a bottom feeder, and then pushing them down the stairs. I can't think of doing business with a company that has such people. Michael, I truly appreciate your help today. I'm grateful for your extensive knowledge and detailed explanations. Upon hearing this, Mr. Johnson looked pleased. Does he think he's forgiven now? So, Why hasn't Brian come to apologize? Why isn't the main culprit here apologizing? I have nothing but gratitude for Michael. Why is Michael here apologizing? It doesn't make any sense. It was right when I made that declaration. Several men entered from the company's entrance. Among them was Brian, looking utterly pale. He was being pulled and pushed by the men around him. What a miserable sight. Can't he even apologize properly? I'm so sorry. I didn't understand what was happening. Yeah, you were impressive, huh? Especially being so young and a president. That's amazing. And, they all started apologizing vehemently. It's really a nuisance. For now, I had them shown to the reception room. Mr. Johnson started talking about what would happen next. Firstly, Brian would be demoted. He wouldn't be in the General Affairs Department, but would join the line work in the factory instead. For someone who used to strut around, this must be humiliating. Brian wasn't wearing work clothes, and he was wearing a watch, right? And such a person will work in the factory. It makes me want to cancel the contract even more. I've experienced it myself, but what do you think line work is? Mr. Johnson, you're taking your job too lightly. Mr. Johnson went silent. Then he clung to me, suggesting, then, we'll fire this man. Hearing this, Brian started to panic. If I get fired, what am I going to do, James? It's all his fault. A president looking like a college student, that's a lie. It's not my fault. Help me, James. Brian was restrained by the employees and led out of the room first. I didn't want to see his face any longer either. I have a medical certificate, so I'll consult with my lawyer and go to the police. As for new projects, we will cancel the deal. We'll also reduce our car deals going forward. Mr. Johnson, it's because you let your relative run wild that this happened. Please leave at once. With that, Mr. Johnson, with a downcast and pale face, left. Brian would be fired because of the $20 million deal falling through. The next day, I consulted again with my lawyer, John, and decided not to settle with Brian. What he did cannot be forgiven. If I had been unlucky, I could have lost my life. Brian called me, but I couldn't forgive him. Please, I'll apologize. I have loans for my car and apartment. If I get fired, I won't be able to live. I didn't think you were the president. It's not my fault, right? That was the gist of it. His words weren't an apology. He just wanted to be forgiven. The thought of such people genuinely apologizing seems far-fetched. It might be better to show them hell. Upon investigation, Brian is single but was dating a young and beautiful woman, and marriage had been discussed. I was worried that her life might also be ruined, but it turned out to be no problem. The incident became gossip, and it reached her ears. As a result, she left Brian. And something that shouldn't be forgotten is the fact that there were people in the past who have been victims of Brian's harassment. Due to Brian's harassment, many people had resigned. Michael worked hard on this matter. Is this what a professional does? I can't believe it. It's unimaginable. Michael had gathered a lot of evidence of the harassment he had experienced. He also collected numerous other pieces of evidence and reported them to me. Misuse of expenses, harassment of employees. The content was truly appalling. It seems he particularly targeted young, capable individuals. Essentially, it was jealousy towards promising young people. Brian's pettiness became quite evident. Finally, Brian was fired from the company. Not only was he fired, but he was also being sued from various sides. I consulted with John and sued Brian too. I met Brian once afterwards. His once plump figure had started to thin, and his thick, brown hair was beginning to thin on top. In his own way, he must be struggling under the pressure. Please, I'll do anything. I've been happily working at my uncle's company since high school graduation. I never thought it would come to this. You're older than me, aren't you? Working since high school graduation means a considerable number of years. All this time, you've been careless. The company didn't deal with you because you're Mr. Johnson's relative. You're a problem, but so is the company. Brian came to our company a few times, so I had him escorted out by security each time. I had no intention of accepting his self-satisfying apologies. It's a nuisance to our employees. If he comes to the company again, I'll sue him for business interference. I told him not to come again if he disliked that idea. He loitered around the company for a while, but he should be looking for a new job instead. Eventually, I decided to officially cut ties with that company. I'm the president. Cutting ties with potentially risky companies is, I believe, only natural. I found better trading partners, so it was a great decision for me. The company seems to be in dire straits, but I think it's only natural. They let a bad employee run rampant just because he was family. The responsibility lies with Mr. Johnson and those around him. After we cut ties, other companies started to do the same. Some must have been contracting with them out of necessity. That company is probably finished now. After being fired, Brian was also expelled from family gatherings. I heard he had to let go of his newly purchased apartment and car because he couldn't pay the loans. Please, I'm begging you, I'll apologize. Just help me. Hire me. I'll even lick your shoes. He caused a scene in front of the company, but who would hire someone like that? The company is precious to me. Now, he seems to be barely getting by with day labor, but is not going well. He's yelled at and instructed by younger people and keeps quitting jobs. In this state, he might eventually be unable to make a living. It's only natural. Working means carrying responsibility. He did nothing but harass young people for fun. Such a person won't do well anywhere. His future looks bleak, but it's entirely self-inflicted. As for me, I continue to be busy as usual. Thinking about the company from morning till night is surprisingly comforting. In my busy days, I visit my ailing father and my brother, who is dealing with illness. I receive advice from them both and continue to learn every day. Without becoming complacent as a president, I aim to continue learning at all times. By the way, Michael is now working at our company. After hearing that he had resigned from his previous company, I scouted him and had him join our General Affairs department. General Affairs is an essential department that supports the company. It's a department where meticulous attention is required, and Michael is excelling there. And we make sure to compensate him accordingly for his achievements. Some may say that the work in General Affairs isn't glamorous. However, it's an indispensable part of the company. I aspire to be a president who recognizes such things and cultivates employees who can also recognize them. It reminded me of my previous job. The days I was troubled and cried over the unreasonable attitudes of my superiors. It was truly difficult. I don't want my employees to go through such experiences. I believe that through this experience, I've managed to overcome a bit of my dark past. My life as a president has only just begun.